Good morning everybody and welcome to Space, where today we're going to squash Tim Curry's dreams of a communist utopia amongst the stars.
I'm sending everything I've got at you.
That's right fellas, we're going to bring capitalism to space for the simple reason of satisfying our own greed. We began our journey with creating our empire, and the first thing that came to mind was a mega corporation. Because what could possibly be better at generating profits than an empire ruled entirely by unchecked capitalists? The big boys might be small in stature, but their greed is titanic. Having explored our immediate surroundings, we found a group of hegemonic imperialists on our borders, so naturally we instantly declared war on them. Mostly because I might have listened to one too many Warhammer 40k lore channels lately, but also because I had come up with a devious plan. If we turned everyone we met into a subsidiary under the big boy corporation, then they would be forced to pay us taxes. Which isn't very capitalist to be sure, but we're not gonna say no to some free money now, are we? And on top of that, we could then open businesses on their planets, effectively double dipping our greedy little hands into their bank accounts. None of this is of course very ethical, but in space no one can hear you union busting. Anyway, having gotten the ball rolling, we still had a long way to go if we wanted to make some real money. So it was fortunate that the moment our war concluded, we established diplomatic relations with the slug scientists. Our warriors saluted them with a firing squad. After a couple of hours of playing, our empire looked something like this. God, our empire is such a fucking mess. I hate it. And we were making roughly 1000 energy a month, which isn't really what I had in mind when I was thinking about getting really fucking rich. So I decided to call this one a failure, and we went back to a drawing board. We had abandoned the idea of trading our way to the top, and instead we were going to acquire our way to the top. We had shed our mortal coil, and we were going to turn all of the organics into batteries. It's not very complicated, and frankly it's a stretch to call it capitalism, but I don't care. All I want is to make as much money as possible, and no one is going to stop me. So we started attempt number 2. We explored our surrounding space, and for once I actually zoomed in and appreciated just how good looking this game actually is. For real, for a grand strategy game, they have put a lot of effort into the graphics, even though they probably could have gotten away with not doing it. Anyway, a few years into the game, tragedy strikes. One of our science ships is attacked by a neighboring empire, and a Systematron 2H is brutally murdered. We had reached out a hand of peace and understanding into the blackness of the void, and they had slapped it away. So the moment we found out who they were, we claimed their capital, and we went to give them the honor of being the very first species to be integrated into the Great Battery on Vovor. And now that I think about it, I have made a huge mistake. I should have named this like Duracell or something. God, that would have been so fucking good. Fuck! Anyway, during our righteous war of retribution, we made contact with another machine empire to the east, and they looked suspiciously familiar. Well, hold the fuck on, that's me! That motherfucker, that's me! We also ran into the humans, who in this universe have taken the form of a horribly oppressive, totalitarian regime, surprising literally no one. So we left them the fuck alone, and we instead attacked our robotic brethren, because much like the Highlander, there can only be one, and the weak should fear the strong. We overwhelmed their defenses with a mix of nuclear missiles and balls of superheated plasma, and having cornered the last reigning fleet in a trinary star system, they agreed to become a subservient hive who, after a probation period, will be integrated into the greater glory that is Yonus. I'm not gonna lie, things they were going better than expected. I was Billy Big Balls on the block, and our neighbors lived in fear of us. I loved every moment of it. Which is why it came as somewhat of a shock when the Calciota administration was able to declare a war of vassalization on us. Because to do that, they had to be a lot stronger than us. So, like a feel-good movie from the early 2000s, I, as the big bad bully, was about to get a taste of my own medicine. Except that I didn't. When our much smaller fleet was engaged by theirs, we showed the galaxy that the organic can never outperform the glory that is machine. Having signed a peace treaty with some rather aggressive subtext, when we next opened our diplomatic mail from the Kelsiotans, we found their rather puzzling message, where they compare our source code to an arthropod all-you-can-eat dung buffet, which isn't a very nice thing to say. But being the bigger sentient, I of course ignore their ignorant words, by which I mean that I might have stewed on it for about 15 years, and when our truce was over, I took their only friend's capital away from them and transformed one of their unspoiled paradise worlds into our new generator world. We were going to feed crank bodies, and in return, it would feed energy to ours. Oh, and during our brooding, an organic hive mind taking the same form as the big boys asked to be our vassals. I of course accepted because frankly, I might have a power problem. But for now they amused me by attacking the Kelsiotans. I don't know if they won in the end, and frankly it doesn't matter because it's fucking hilarious. And because I might have spent the last 5 minutes sending over 227 populations to live on Crank, which is currently producing 900 energy a month. Which isn't bad, but we can do better. So we declare a war on 3 separate people at once, and we started collecting meat bags like they were Pokemons. I don't know what that means, but it sounded funny. With that done, we had completely absorbed the ones that murdered a Systematron 2H in the beginning of the game and made the humans into our vassals. Also, we might have landed 4 ultra-active caretaker squads on a planet that just managed to split the atom, an action that apparently confirmed to us that there is such a thing as intelligent life out there in the galaxy. We just hadn't found any. With all of that done, Crank was now the guardian of 294 pops, and it was producing a solid 1834 energy. We also got our hand on a ruined matter decompressor, and as I was trying to come up with a joke to explain what a matter decompressor is, I came across a Reddit thread, and well, you can't improve on perfection.
It's Megamate! She's gone from suck to blow. What?
God, I fucking love that movie. A few years pass in relative peace, and the moment our truce with the birdmen of Bokia is over, we do to them what we did to the humans. And if I'm completely honest, they didn't really put up much of a fight. Having beaten them 4 times already, they practically begged us to be put into the carefree existence of a semi-sentient battery. And I didn't have the heart to say no. Halfway through our liberation of the Bokians, the Great Khan spawns and take control over one of the Marauder empires. Unfortunately, they were on the opposite side of the galaxy from us, and almost immediately they decided to commit suicide by attacking one of the fallen empires. To put things into perspective, the Great Khan had a fleet of 60,000, which is a respectable size. The fallen empire, on the other hand, had a fleet of over 400,000. So yeah, I guess the Great Khan wasn't as great as they claimed. Anyway, having made our way to the home system of the Bokians, we found out that they had hired a space dragon to act as space protection. Hiring a mythological beast to protect your interest probably would have worked about 4,000 years ago, when the worst thing they had to contend with was maybe a catapult or 2. But at this point, I had a fleet of battleships and cruisers armed with kinetic batteries and phase disruptors. So yeah, I basically Thanos snapped that fucker out of existence. Things, they were going pretty well for us. Our matter decompressor was restored, we used the Omni Codex to resurrect an ancient species, we started the production of a Dyson sphere, subjugated the Bokians and their friends in the galactic cerulean regime, and realized that our enemies from the beginning of the game were being eaten by the Losavatas Raveners, a ravenous hive mind with aspirations of becoming the Crisis. Now there's no way of knowing just how many populations the hive had already consumed, but one thing I do know is that one, just one, would have been one too many. So we declare war, and we're not going to stop until every last one of whatever the fuck this is dead in the fucking ground. As our brave bots are exterminating their way across the galaxy, we integrated the humans into our empire, which might have reduced my mouse lifespan with about 3,000 clicks. But it was worth it, because Crank was now the home of 771 populations, and it was producing a girthy 7,300 energy a month. I have done some pretty terrible things in my gaming career, but I'm pretty sure that this is one of the worst. Since we were making roughly 7,000 energy a month, it came to me that making a lot of money is all well and good. But if you can't hoard it like a goddamn dragon and rub people's faces in the vast amount of money you have collected like it's some kind of high score, then what's really the point? This is why I decided to transform every world I conquered from this point forward to what I like to refer to as a silo world. Paradox, if you're watching this, my fees as an independent consultant are very reasonable. It was soon after this decision that I came to the realization that every planet we took from the Raveners contained at least one of the hideous freaks they called populations. And being a hive mind, we couldn't really do anything with them except purge them as the undesirables they were. Which is all well and good, but any way you look at it, we don't really gain anything from it except for the satisfaction of a job well done. But having played Stellaris for a little over 600 hours at this point, I know that there is often options hidden away in the depths of the species tab. So we decided to go spelunking, and lo and behold, through the clever use of chemical processes, we can help our hated foe attain a more efficient form. And while the process is fatal, death comes slowly. God, I fucking love this game. So with a new source of money gained, we integrate the Bokians, and in the ancient halls of a long dead empire of kleptomanic rats, we find the Rubricator, an ancient artifact of some renown. Which is why an ancient space dragon, having made its nest in the remains of the rat empire, tried to steal it from us. Unfortunately for him, however, we have 22 battleships in the area, so he fucking died. Next, we proclaim ourselves Galactic Emperor and land our armies on the last of the Raveners' planets. Having ended the war, we were now making 22,000 energy a month, with 3 million saved up. And with the Raveners gone, we had pretty much wiped out the last threat to our new galactic order. So, like the finger-snapping delinquents we are, we set our eyes on the old people of the galaxy. Grandma just got put on life support, and we want our inheritance. But as you all know, where there's one old person, there is often more. So it didn't come as much of a surprise when one of the other fallen empires declared war on one of our member states. So, having taken only half of what we are owed from Grandma, we took care of old Gertrude on our way to finish off the Kelsiotans. Because after all, I have been the one to save them from the Raveners, and now I have come to collect what was mine. At the same time, we also declared war on the hierarchy of Bavira, because having pretty much taken out 2 fallen empires at this point, and being the emperor of the galaxy, there's not a question if I'm going to win. It's a question of how many are going to die before I achieve my goals. The answer is many, because our sensors then picked up a massive subspace power surge, and suddenly a dimensional portal tears a hole in reality with fleets of ships of unknown origin pouring out. The unbidden had come to reap this galaxy. So we summon the Imperial Armada and proceed to put the genie back in its bottle. With that done, we still have some things to do. Grandma just woke up and half of her shit is gone. So naturally she starts fighting with Dorothy across the hall, because everybody knows she steals things, even if they don't want to say anything. The War in Heaven is a cataclysmic event where 2 fallen empires awake and start conquering everything around them for a final showdown for the title of ruler of the galaxy. Unfortunately for them, the galaxy already had a ruler, and I don't like to share. Having defeated the Awaken and integrated their people and the people of Bavira and the Kelsiotans, Crank now had 3,425 pops, and it was pumping out a massive 46,651 energy. In total, we were earning 68,185 energy a month, but we could do better. So in our quest for ever-increasing profits, we dismantled starbases, we sold the Imperial Armada for scraps, and flooded the market with our bunkered up resources. In the end, we were making a staggering 175,400 energy a month, with 7,640,798 in the bank. And with that, I would say that we had achieved our goal of making a fuck ton of money. So, I'd like to thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Well, I would say that that's a lot of money right there. Hell yeah.